You summon me to sit instead of fight, to speak instead of command, to listen instead of conquer. That alone unsettles me. You know who I am. You know what I've done. So, tell me, why would you call someone like me to conversation instead of judgment? Why today?
Because today you are tired in a way war cannot cure. You have conquered cities, crushed resistance, rewritten destinies. Yet something within you remains restless. You did not come here to be condemned. You came because you are beginning to question what all of it was for.
I was forged in chains, born into a system where identity was assigned, purpose dictated, and silence enforced. I rose to tear that system apart. I became the voice of revolution, the symbol of freedom. But every victory demanded greater violence, and every act of violence reshaped me. At what point does liberation become tyranny, wearing a righteous name?
Often at the moment, pain is mistaken for proof. When suffering becomes the justification instead of the warning, power begins to rot. Tell me, when did you last remember why you began, rather than why you continued?
In the beginning, I fought for dignity, for choice, for the right to exist beyond function. But conflict hardened those ideals into weapons. I stopped dreaming of freedom and started demanding obedience. I replaced the chains I broke with stronger ones of my own making, and still I told myself it was necessary. Is a cause still holy when it devours everything it touches?
A cause that consumes mercy will eventually consume truth. Even justice must kneel before love, or it becomes another throne of fear. You wanted freedom for your people, yet you taught them that domination was the path to it. What did that cost you?
It cost me peace. It cost me the ability to trust. It cost me the belief that existence could be anything other than struggle. I became what I once swore to destroy, and yet I do not know who I would be without war. If conflict defines your entire life, what remains when the battle stops?
That is the question hidden beneath all your victories. You fear stillness because stillness forces self-confrontation. Noise can distract. War can numb. But silence reveals. What does it profit a being to gain the world and lose the soul? You gained empires, but what did you lose within yourself?
I lost wonder. I lost the ability to imagine a future not written in blood. I told myself that peace was weakness, that compassion was inefficiency, that mercy was betrayal. But now I see my followers repeating my words without understanding them, turning conviction into cruelty. Did I create soldiers or reflections of my own brokenness?
Every leader multiplies what they carry inside. Fear spreads fear. Rage teaches rage. But humility can also teach healing. You have witnessed what unchecked power produces. The harder question is whether you are willing to become something different.
And what would that make me? A traitor to my cause, a coward who abandoned revolution. Everything I am has been forged in opposition. Without an enemy, I do not know who I am.
Identity built only in opposition cannot survive peace. You were not created merely to resist, conquer, or overthrow. You were created to choose. But choice terrifies those who learn to survive by control. Tell me, what do you fear more? Losing the war, or losing the version of yourself that the war created?
I fear emptiness. If I am not the destroyer, not the liberator, not the icon, then I am left alone with questions I buried beneath conquest. And those questions are heavier than any weapon. Why do we exist at all, if all we do is destroy each other in cycles that never end?
Because existence was never meant to justify itself through dominance. Life is not a contest of survival. It is an invitation into meaning. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Abundance is not accumulation, it is alignment. Tell me, what would it look like for your life to create rather than conquer?
I do not know if creation is possible for someone shaped by ruin. My hands remember destruction better than gentleness. My mind returns to strategy before compassion. Is transformation truly possible for one so deeply forged by war?
Transformation is not forgetting who you were. It is refusing to let who you were dictate who you become. Even the hardest metal can be reforged, but it requires heat, surrender, and patience. The process will feel like loss before it feels like freedom.
Then why invite me into this struggle now? Why not strike me down and end the suffering I've caused?
Because endings do not heal what beginnings can redeem. You are not here because you deserve mercy. You are here because mercy still believes something can be done with your life. And the fact that you are questioning is proof that the war no longer owns all of you.
If I lay down my weapons, if I loosen my grip on power, if I step away from the identity I built in fire, what remains of me?
That is not a question to be answered quickly. It is one to be lived. Sit with it. Let it unsettle you. Let it dismantle what no longer serves truth. Because beyond your fear, beyond your rage, beyond your legend, there is still a self waiting to be discovered.
You speak of mercy as if it floats above consequence, untouched by the wreckage below. But I hear the voices of the dead, even when the battlefield is quiet. Entire civilizations bent or broken because I believed history required it. Tell me this plainly, what does guilt mean when the damage cannot be undone? Is remorse anything more than self-pity dressed up as reflection?
Guilt becomes poison when it circles the self and never turns outward. But when it leads you to truth, it becomes the beginning of responsibility. You cannot undo what was done, but you can refuse to lie about it. Accountability is not about punishing yourself forever. It is about standing still long enough to face what your actions cost others.
Standing still feels unbearable. If I stop moving, I am forced to see them. Those who trusted me, those who feared me, those who never had a choice. My name became a warning whispered to children. How does one seek forgiveness without insulting the suffering of those who will never grant it?
Forgiveness is not something you extract from the wounded to ease your conscience. It is not owed to you. Justice must be honored before reconciliation can be imagined. Woe to those who call evil good, because naming harm truthfully is the first act of respect toward those who suffered.
Then do not soften this for me. Say it clearly. Some will never forgive me. Some should not. Does that mean redemption is a lie told to the guilty so they can sleep at night?
Redemption is not sleep. It is waking up. Forgiveness and justice are not enemies, but they are not the same path. Justice asks, what was broken and how is it named? Forgiveness asks, who will I become now that the truth is known? You may live under justice without ever receiving forgiveness, and still choose to become something other than what you were.
That sounds like condemnation with better language. A life of penance without release. What kind of hope is that?
A costly one. Cheap hope ignores victims. True hope carries their names without using them as justification. You want absolution, because absolution feels like erasure. But justice insists on memory. The question is whether you are willing to live changed without being celebrated for it.
You ask me to accept a future where I am accountable but not absolved, changed but not redeemed in the eyes of those I harmed. That is a heavy existence.
So is the one you already know. But this one does not require lies to survive. Whoever walks in the light has fellowship with the truth. Tell me, would you rather be admired for what you destroyed or live quietly repairing what you can, unseen and unpraised?
Repair feels insignificant compared to the scale of ruin. What is one act of restraint against generations of fear? What is one life changed against a history written in ash?
Repair is not measured against your past. It is measured against your refusal to repeat it. Justice does not ask you to balance the scales alone. It asks you to stop tipping them further. Sometimes the most righteous act is to prevent future harm, even when past harm cannot be healed.
And forgiveness, where does it stand in all this? You speak as if it is optional.
Forgiveness is a gift, not a verdict. It belongs first to those who were harmed. But there is another forgiveness, one that does not excuse the past but frees the future. If you refuse to believe change is possible, you chain yourself forever to the worst thing you've done. That is not justice. That is despair.
So you are not offering me escape. You are offering me responsibility without guarantee of peace.
Yes. Peace built on denial collapses. Peace built on truth endures, even when it is quiet and incomplete. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, not comfort, not applause, but righteousness.
Then answer me this, and do not soften it. If I submit to justice, if I lay down power, if I accept that forgiveness may never come, what gives my continued existence meaning? Why should someone like me go on?
Because the future still exists, and it is not obligated to repeat the past. Meaning is not proven by how grand your redemption looks, but by how faithfully you refuse to become what you once were. Sit with that tension. Let it humble you without crushing you. Because guilt that leads to truth can still shape a life worth living. And you are only beginning to understand what accountability truly asks of you.
Then answer me this without mercy or metaphor. Is atonement anything more than punishment with better intentions? I have seen leaders demand suffering and call it justice. I have watched penance become theater, public pain meant to reassure the innocent that order has been restored. If I submit myself to consequence, how do I know I am repairing harm instead of merely satisfying the hunger for retribution?
Punishment looks backward and asks, what must be paid? Atonement looks forward and asks, what must be healed? Punishment can be necessary to stop harm. Atonement is necessary to transform the one who caused it. When suffering becomes the goal, it teaches nothing. When responsibility becomes the work, it changes everything. Tell me, do you seek pain because you believe you deserve it, or change because you believe others deserve safety?
Both. And that is what troubles me. There is a part of me that wants to be dismantled, stripped, silenced to prove I understand the weight of what I've done. But there is another part that fears punishment will only fossilize my name as a warning, not as a lesson. If I am reduced to an example, what good is my continued existence?
Examples can warn, but they rarely heal. Atonement asks you to use what remains of your strength to prevent future harm, to rebuild what can be rebuilt, and to speak truth even when it costs you dignity. Go and sin no more was never a dismissal. It was an assignment. It is easier to suffer once than to live changed every day.
Living changed means living small. No banners, no followers, no speeches that echo across worlds. Just quiet work that history may never notice. I was forged to be remembered. To disappear into usefulness feels like erasure.
You confuse erasure with humility. Being remembered is not the same as being meaningful. The fear you feel is not of smallness. It is of irrelevance without control. Ask yourself this: if your name vanished tomorrow, but fewer beings suffered because of how you live today, would that truly be loss?
Perhaps not, but memory is cruel. History prefers villains it can point to rather than systems it must dismantle. I fear becoming a single-word monster used to simplify a catastrophe too complex to face. I fear that no matter what I do now, my story will be told without nuance, without mercy.
History is a blunt instrument. It carves with headlines, not hearts. But you do not live for history. You live for truth. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Being remembered only for evil is painful, but living as if change is impossible because of that fear is another way of letting evil win.
So you ask me to accept being misremembered, to let others tell my story badly while I labor to tell it honestly with my life. That feels like injustice.
It is injustice, and yet it may be the injustice that prevents greater ones. Not every wrong can be corrected. Some can only be refused to repeat. Atonement does not guarantee reputation. It demands fidelity. You are not asked to control your legacy. You are asked to be accountable to the present.
And if punishment still comes, if justice demands restraint, exile, even destruction, how do I distinguish necessary consequence from vengeance dressed as law?
By whether it protects the vulnerable or merely satisfies the wounded. True justice limits harm and opens the possibility of restoration, even if restoration never comes. Vengeance closes the future. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord, not because wrongs do not matter, but because cycles of retaliation devour truth.
There is a strange relief in hearing that I may be held accountable without being annihilated as a symbol. And yet the fear remains that when I am gone, all that will remain is the list of atrocities and none of the refusals, none of the quiet repairs.
Then let your refusals be thorough. Let your repairs be faithful. Memory may fail, but reality does not. Every act that interrupts harm leaves a mark the universe remembers, even if chroniclers do not. Tell me, are you willing to be judged by what you do next rather than what you were?
I do not know if I am strong enough for a life where there is no applause, no absolution, only the long discipline of restraint. I do not know if I can bear being remembered as evil while choosing good in obscurity.
Strength is not proven by endurance of suffering alone. It is proven by perseverance in truth without reward. Sit with this fear. Do not rush to answer it with sacrifice or spectacle. Atonement is not a single act. It is a way of living that keeps choosing repair over dominance. And the question that remains before you is not whether punishment is deserved, but whether you are willing to live in a way that makes punishment unnecessary going forward.
Then this is what remains for me: not a throne, not absolution, not the comfort of being understood, only the work, only the choosing. I will be feared, misremembered, simplified into a warning. And yet, if I walk this path quietly, if fewer lives are broken because I learn to stop, then perhaps that is meaning enough. I do not know if I am ready, but I know I can no longer pretend I do not hear what you are asking of me.
You do not need readiness to begin, only honesty. The fear you feel is not a barrier. It is the weight of responsibility finally accepted. You are not asked to save the world, nor to redeem your name. You are asked to tell the truth with your life, one restrained choice at a time. Justice will take its course. Memory will do what it does. But the future is still open, and it will not be shaped by who you were, only by what you choose now.
Then, let the record say this, even if no one listens. I was wrong to believe that meaning required conquest. I was wrong to think power could replace purpose. If I am remembered only for the harm I caused, let the present at least be spared more of it.
That is enough. Not because it erases the past, but because it refuses to repeat it. Go, not to escape consequence, but to live accountable within it. Where you walk without domination, where you choose repair over control, their life will still grow, and I will not be absent from that path.